Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Off the Cuff here at City Hall. Quickly today I'm going to run through some of the events that have happened here at City Hall and with city government over the last few weeks. First and foremost, we made an announcement earlier this month of two 24-hour surveillance safe internet exchange locations here in the city of Oswego. This is a unique idea that we have. We've seen, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, an increase in online purchasing. And what that results in often is, if it's through eBay or another form of sort of a website, two people have to meet up to purchase and give the item to complete the transaction. So it often requires two strangers to meet. And what we've found is there's really no safe place to meet, particularly if you're a woman or a smaller person. You may feel a bit vulnerable or feel a bit scared to meet a stranger in just a random parking lot or on the side of some street somewhere. So we're providing two locations marked with signage that will be lit and under 24-hour surveillance, and also they're near two city buildings that are staffed 24 hours. The first location being behind the East Side Fire Department, the second location being in the parking stalls right in front of the Oswego Police Department. So we got a lot of good feedback, positive feedback from our residents. We thought there was a need for it. We heard some people talking about the need for this, so we're happy to deliver those and deliver it quickly here for our residents. Big news in our code enforcement department. I proposed earlier this month $50,000 in funding for what we call the Zombie Home Rehab program. And what that home rehab program does is allows code enforcement, after multiple attempts are made to get a resident to invest in their property and make it code compliant. If a home sits vacant for a year or more, and in that year continues to be non-compliant and in compliance with our city code, we can send a last chance letter and give the property owner one last chance to make some of the basic minimum repairs to bring the property into compliance. And if they don't, we can actually hire a contractor to go on and bring the property into compliance, and then actually bill the property owner with interest. And then this money, once it's collected, either from the tax bill or when the bank or property owner goes to sell the property, goes back into this city fund that we established about a year and a half ago. And that fund builds itself so we can continue doing other properties. This is actually the second round of properties we've done. The first round was a $40,000 round, and we just completed that in the spring. We did 7 properties. And the reason we have to go get more funding is because the funds were just put on their tax bill, so it'll take some time for that initial seed money to come back and re-enter the fund. So we're putting $50,000 up. It's matched with another $50,000 in state funding to go, and we think this $100,000 in funding will be able to do anywhere from 12 to 15 rehabs around the city of Oswego. So the method we set up will ask city residents, if you have a property in your neighborhood that you think qualifies, has been vacant for a year or more, and is always non-compliant with the city code and a source of blight, please contact your city councilor with the address. We can put it on the list for consideration and hopefully deliver some positive results in short order. We'll be looking to do these 12 to 15 homes here in the coming weeks. So hopefully by the time winter gets here, the 12 to 15 properties will be complete. In other news, we passed the nuisance law proposal that I proposed again a few weeks ago. This was the law that establishes a committee, and after code enforcement and the police department creates a file on a property that's always a disruption or a nuisance to property owners. So if it's always in poor condition, if there's garbage out front, if there's always partying or loud disturbances, if there's a constant police presence or need for code enforcement to tend to the property all the time, City government will build a file on that property, and once it gets to case worth hearing, the committee will hear it and make a ruling. That ruling can range from anywhere from pulling the rental permits to making the property sit vacant for 1 year, or to doing what our code enforcement department does, and that's mandating certain repairs, exterior and interior repairs to the property to allow the property to continue having a CO. So that legislation passed the Common Council unanimously. We appointed people to the committee, and our code enforcement police departments are already beginning to build cases on some properties to take before the committee to take action and offer relief to nearby residents. So that's a piece of good news, and I do believe you'll start seeing the positive impacts of that legislation in your neighborhoods, particularly if you have a disruptive property in your neighborhood. Two other quick points. We opened the Jack Bobbitt Memorial Street Hockey Skating Rink at Shapiro Park. Jack Bobbitt was an 11-year-old boy we tragically lost last summer. So we thought he was an all-star in hockey and a very well-known young man here in the Oswego community, particularly in the Oswego Minor Hockey Association. So Councilor Corradino last summer identified the street hockey rink as in need of improvement. So we invested about $30,000 into that rink to make it usable again. Before, grass was growing up through the blacktop, which was the rink. We didn't have nets, the fencing was falling down. So we totally renovated that. If you haven't seen it, take a stop up to Shapiro Park and check it out. It looks great, and then we formally dedicated it to Jack Bobbitt and called it the Jack Bobbitt Memorial Rink. We had a ribbon cutting there with Jack's friends and family to celebrate his life and legacy, and we look forward to seeing some of Oswego's youth play on the rink for the rest of this summer. And lastly, I made a social media post earlier this month that I think a lot of people found interesting, and that is our ability to use our wastewater system and our wastewater treatment plants to conduct COVID-19 testing. And what this allows us to do is to take samples in the wastewater that arrives at each of our 2 wastewater facilities and sample that for COVID-19. And that allows us to identify the location of possible coronavirus cases in the city of Oswego. We can actually use the wastewater system to identify where the person lives by tracing it back. So once we register a positive sample, we can go into other areas of the wastewater system and begin sampling and slowly isolate where that COVID-19 positive case might be. So it actually helps with contact tracing. It helps identify the positive cases, particularly when the SUNY community comes back. Because we serve the SUNY campus with our wastewater treatment operation, it'll be helpful there as well. And it was a unique and interesting idea that I thought was worth sharing. So I'd like to thank the staff at our wastewater facilities for being willing to do the testing. We just authorized testing to go on for another 3 months. So for the foreseeable future, we'll keep doing this testing because we do find it to be helpful and beneficial as we try to battle this COVID-19 pandemic. So just an interesting tidbit I thought worth sharing, and a lot of people reacted positively to it. So thank you for joining this edition of Off the Cuff. I look forward to talking to you next month. We'll be talking about the city budget as we're about to enter budget season. I'll be proposing the city budget here in the next week or so, and then the Common Council will have about 2 weeks to either amend it, reject it, or accept it. So that'll be coming up on next month's edition of Off the Cuff. So I look forward to talking to you then. In the meantime, please stay safe and reach out to me directly with any questions, comments, or concerns. Thank you.